Hey, DawgNation, I'm Brandon Adams, and this is our DawgNation postgame show. We're presented by the UGA Bookstore. It is an absolute madhouse down here. Georgia knocks off Ohio State 42-41. Is that even the final score? Never gave up. You didn't give up. Go Dogs indeed. The red coats walking out here having a great time. Y'all, it is going to be a party unlike anything that has ever happened on New Year's Eve in Atlanta after what we just saw go down. I got to tell you, it's really overwhelming, right? I mean, there's so many different ways you can talk about this, so many different things you can say, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. We'll read your comments the old-fashioned way. We'll take your Zoom calls live. We're going to get Terence Edwards in here and talk to him here in just a little bit, too. It's obviously well after midnight. We've rung in the new year. We got to try to figure out a way to sort of put some of this in perspective as to what we just saw. I guess the simplest thing to say to start off this off, go for 2-22. There are a lot of people who thought it was over, who thought it was done. I'm not talking about Georgia fans. I don't think Georgia fans ever gave up. But there were a lot of Georgia haters who've been listening to us talk about this over the course of the last year, about the idea that Georgia might be able to win a second straight national championship. And they were waiting to pounce. They were waiting to see the day in which these dogs get humbled. Well, guess what? One of these days, Georgia might be humbled. One of these days, I might have to walk on here and do a show with my tail tucked between my legs and woulda, coulda, shouldas, whatever else. One of these days, that might happen. But it ain't going to be tonight because dogs are on top against Ohio State. And is there a better team out there to watch have to go back home and figure out what went wrong and how they let the big lead slip away, and they're already patting themselves in the back and popping champagne corks. All kinds of folks on Twitter having to delete every tweet in the world out there because they had already crowned Ohio State as champions. They had written Georgia's autopsy. The number of tweets are going to be deleted here over the course of the next, 30, 45 minutes, hour, whatever else. That's going to be off the charts. What an unbelievable moment. And I think it just kind of comes down to this. At a certain point, that's exactly right. Go Dogs indeed, as the red coats keep walking by. At a certain point, you just sort of have to acknowledge there is just something about this team that's just special. There is just something about this group of guys who've been a part of Georgia football over the course of the last 2 years that's just a little bit different. And we can list all the ways in which they didn't play perfect tonight. And we can all talk justifiably about, at one point in time, it just sort of looked like it was going really, really wrong for UGA. And yeah, they didn't quit. They didn't give up. And they stayed with the fight the entire time, and ultimately it paid off. Ultimately, they did what they had to do to put themselves in a position to win. And listen, I don't think you can say enough about Stetson Bennett tonight. I truly don't think you can say enough about what he provided for Georgia. And you know the backstory here. It's not just Bennett's backstory. It's Georgia's backstory for all these years. The questions, and maybe some of them were even legitimate at times, about, could this team win this sort of shootout game? That's the one thing you always kind of heard of. If Georgia's ever forced to play that way, could they do that? Well, tonight we found out, yeah, they could do that. And I thought there was something incredibly poignant about the idea that Georgia in this situation wasn't, I guess ultimately they were trying to get the stop to win the game, but they were in a situation where they had to drive to take the lead. And Bennett, who's had so many, different things said about him, whether it be, the praise and everything in between, such a controversial figure in some respects when he was a Heisman finalist a few weeks ago, and that became this really weird story, kind of obscuring what had, I think, undeniably been a wonderful career, and everybody had to have their opinion on that. But tonight, Bennett got the last word on that, and he's obviously not the only one on this offense that deserves the praise for this. But once again, you're talking about a guy who's at his absolute best when Georgia really needed for that to be the case. When they were hanging on by a string, y'all. What was the great Larry Munson once said in the Georgia-Florida game of 1980? I gave up, you did too, or was that the Hobnail Boot game? I forget which one, but that's one of those Munson lines. And I don't know that we ever quite gave up, but boy, we were thinking about it, right? I mean, if we're really honest, we were thinking about it. If we were really honest, we were knowing that Georgia was one more haymaker away from kind of being knocked out of this game. But it just never happened. I'm so grateful. I just am so grateful that I got a chance to see this. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't enjoy a second of this. I was miserable the entire time. I was sitting with my family for a while. I couldn't get still there. Just so much nervous tension. Went back to press box. So nervous in there. Fourth quarter, I mean, I was about to vomit. The whole thing was just a mess. But listen, that's what it's about, right? The biggest games bring about the biggest emotions. This is clearly some of that. So I don't know where this conversation is going to go tonight. I'm curious what you thought about it. I'm curious how you'll remember it. I think it's going to go down as undeniably one of the great wins in the history of the Georgia program. Truly an unbelievable, historic, storybook type comeback. And we'll just keep the conversation going here. Our buddy Terence Edwards is here right now. Terence, I know it's late, and I'm sure you're like me trying to process what we just saw here. Have you ever seen a more dramatic win for Georgia football than what we just saw a moment ago? It was amazing. Terence, what did you think about it?
I'm just like everyone else. I'm shocked, amazed, disappointed, happy, sad. I just got all the range of emotions right now. Man, I left the stadium. It was down 14. I could get home, and I'll be honest with you, I was contemplating even coming on tonight because I was so upset. But, the Dogs kept the faith. Kirby and company kept the faith. Down 14 with 8 minutes to go, and Georgia's going back to the national championship game.
They're going back to the national championship game, Terence. That is so well said and so true. What's up, guys? We love the Redcoats. They're walking by right now. As a player yourself, Terence, what is it like to have to kind of hold on to that belief? Because if there's doubt kind of creeping into the stands, if there's that thought of, well, this slipped away from Georgia, has the deficit gotten too big, and is there too little time left? How do the players in this particular moment, how do they not give up? And frankly, I'm looking forward to hearing from them what they have to say about that. How do the players keep from giving up in that situation? You were a player. What's the mindset like as this comeback starts to unfold here in the second half, specifically in the fourth quarter?
It's tough. We could go back to 1999. I know it's not the national championship semifinals, but when we played Purdue with Drew Brees and we came back from 25 points, you just got to continue to believe. It's hard. It's hard to believe that you can actually come back and win. But good teams continue to have that positive mindset. They just need to see plays, good plays happens for them. And after we scored that first touchdown, then the belief continued to grow. But it's tough trying to keep 18 to 21-year-olds really believing that they can come back and win.
It's our DawgNation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. I don't know how they're going to get these fans out of here. There are Georgia fans everywhere. You got the field is full right now. You got all the fans that are over here in the stands. The celebration's ongoing. And, Terence, we're going to start lining up some Zoom calls. We'll let people jump on here and share their thoughts. Reese Davis is going to walk by here in just a minute. He's obviously seen a great game here tonight. But I want to hear your Zoom calls. I want to hear your thoughts about how all this played out. And Terence, I think the thing you got to do here is you got to give credit to Ohio State. I mean, the setting would not have been there for this unbelievably dramatic comeback if Ohio State did not give Georgia its absolute best for certainly the early stage of this game, first half, first three quarters. Ohio State really came to play. They really came with an edge. This was a team that I had respect for coming in. I had some concern about this being, frankly, a close, hard-fought game, something that Georgia fans haven't seen a lot of in recent years. And Ohio State probably gave that and a whole lot more so. I think one of the things you got to do in talking about how it was that Georgia had the night that it had is, man, Ohio State proved itself to be a very formidable challenger on that field tonight.
Most definitely. They definitely brought out the best in us. They were definitely the team that I definitely didn't want to play in the first round because they have the ability to throw the football, and you saw tonight that we couldn't stop them at times. That drive right before halftime was just a catalyst of what happened all night. So this the matchup I didn't want. I would rather Michigan and Ohio State battle it out again, and we got TCU, and we're going to get the matchup that I wanted in the first round in the national championship game. But we knew that their best thing they do is throw the ball, and our pass defense was not our strong suit. and it showed tonight. But we found a way to win, and we're moving on.
How big was Arian Smith tonight? Getting back, behind the defense on what ultimately set up the game-winning touchdown. A couple of other big catches for him tonight. Terence, that blazing speed, that ability to put separation between you and a defensive back, there is just so much value on that. You know the position so well. How impressed were you with what Arian Smith brought to the table tonight for Georgia?
Aaron has something that a lot of people don't have, and that's straight line speed. He had a lot of big catches tonight. He had two explosive plays, and the last one for the go-ahead touchdown was a great route. If you look at it, I mean, it's still a vertical route, but he stepped on the defender's toes, gave him a rocker step. That's 1-2, and the defender failed. That's what you're looking for. And Stetson gave him a chance to catch the football, and that was a big play. And plays like that really gave the team confidence. Okay, we get a stop. We have a chance to go out and tie this game. And Ladd, let's give him some credit. He was not full strength, but he caught the 2-point conversion, so he laid it all out on the line. So there's a lot of praise to go around, but I'm happy for Arian for what he's been through with the injuries to go out and finally start contributing and showing that blazing speed that he has and making an impact on the game.
By the way, before we got to our Zoom calls, I wanted to show you. I got the Go for 2 and 22 shirt on. Right down here at the bottom, it says we're on our way to L.A. That is what Georgia's doing. It's going to Los Angeles. It's going to be in California in January, trying to bring home another national championship. Go for 2 in 22. Ace Dog, you've been a part of so many of these post-game shows with us. How about them, Dogs? How does it feel to start 2023 with a win against the Ohio State Buckeyes in a game that'll never be forgotten as long as anybody lives? Ace Dog, how did you feel about this one tonight?
Oh, I feel great about it, B.A. It's great to be a Dog tonight. Just want to say Happy New Year to you, Terence Edwards, and all of DawgNation. It's a great night to be a Dog. So thrilled to get the win. I just knew we were done for. I have to honestly say I gave up on them, B.A. I thought we were done. But they came back and pulled it off, and I'm so proud of the team, the coaching staff, everybody involved. I hate to see Big O go down, but I think he might be done for the year, and that's sad to see. But I'm thrilled for A.D. Mitchell and Arian Smith to get so back much more involved with the offense. And just thrilled to see it. And go for 2 and 22, B.A. Go Dogs.
Ace Dog, I love it, buddy. You're absolutely right. Go for 2 and 22 indeed. You mentioned Darnell Washington. Darnell's actually right over here to my left. You can't see him on your screen. He's walking by. He's all smiles. He's talking to somebody. He does have a walking boot on that left foot. What's also funny is David Daniels-Sisselman has been in the stands for like 15 minutes. He's been up there taking pictures and hugging and meeting with anybody. It's total anarchy down here. You got David Daniel in the stands. You got Darnell's walking around here a minute ago. He did have the walking boot on. So your point about being concerned about his injury situation is certainly a valid one. But Darnell is still meeting with these fans and enjoying all of that. But, Terence, I think the thing that Ace Dog brings up, you got to be honest here, is that part of what makes the comeback so amazing is there were definitely moments in which you just didn't think it was going to be possible, or when you thought that Ohio State really was very much on the verge of putting this game away, up 21-7 is a for instance on this. And yet I think if you're a Buckeyes fan, they're going to certainly have their own call-in shows and things like that where they're going to, kind of go over all of this. I think what they're going to look back and say is when you had a chance to really end this game, when you had a chance to do that, you obviously just weren't able to do it. You just weren't able to kind of get that done. You weren't able to fully salt the game away, and that's kind of what that story is. But to go back to the point that Ace was making, Terence, you don't get the great comeback unless there was a moment in time in which it sort of seemed improbable. And there is no doubt in this game, there was more than a couple moments where the comeback that ultimately took place seemed very, very improbable.
It did. With 8 minutes to go and we're down 14 with this type of offense, we haven't really stopped them consistently all night long. So it seemed out of reach, and like everyone else, I started going to my car to get an early start on the traffic, and when we scored that first touchdown to Arian Smith, I was like, okay, we got a chance. I'm watching it on my phone, and Man, when they missed the field goal, I probably ran around in my neighborhood because I didn't go in the house yet because I'm watching it on my phone. I ran around my neighborhood screaming, and hopefully, my HOA don't call the police on me. But that was, that was something that I never thought. That's something I never thought that we would be able to do. Come back on this team who can move the football. We did it. We're going to enjoy it, and I can't wait to get to LA and try to go 2 for 22. Now it's 23, so try to win another championship.
I love it, Terence. I love it, Terence. That's good stuff. Hey, JC, you're with us here on the DawgNation Postgame Show, presented by the UGA Bookstore. JC, unmute yourself and go ahead and share your thoughts here.
Hey, BA, how you doing tonight? Happy New Year, Terence and BA.
I'm doing good, JC. How about yourself?
You too. Joshua visited me from ODU. He graduated second lieutenant, and he graduated from ODU as a bachelor of science. So,
congratulations.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So I just want to say, hey, I was like you, Terence. I was kind of nervous there in the beginning, but then as things got kind of tight, it got kind of hectic in my heart. So, but we pulled it out, and we got some things, like you said, we got some things to clean up, and enjoy the win tonight, and on to LA going for 2 and 22.
I like it, JC. Good stuff. And by the way, tell your son we say congratulations. What an amazing honor that is, and how much fun is it to have a night like this where it's New Year's Eve, you got family around you, you got this great win for the Georgia Bulldogs. And Terence, that's what makes it special, right? I had my wife and kids here tonight. Being able to share this moment with them. I was able to sit with them for a little bit on the phone with them a moment ago too, and just kind of talking about that. Branson Robinson walking by here. He's obviously having a good time here right now. He's looking good. But that's what makes it special, Terence, right? When you get a chance to share these moments with family and friends, that's what makes it so memorable.
Yes, man. I don't think we will ever forget this game. This one of those games that 40 years from now, just like the Herschel running over Bill Bates or the Lindsey run, the hobnail boot with Ron. Like, this is the Rose Bowl game. Like, this is going to go down in Georgia lore and will be talked about forever, especially if we could cap off with a national championship and back-to-back. This game will be spoken about for years to come, rightfully so. This was a special moment for Georgia football. I mean, man, this is, I don't know. I just don't know. This is something I've never seen, never been a part of, and I'm happy I got to see it with my own 2 eyes.
Let me see if I can get now, Big Tech's going to slap me on the wrist for this. Let me see if I can set the right move for all this. Y'all hear that? Get a little California love going here as the Dogs on their way to Los Angeles. So we're going to take your comments. You can hit us up on Zoom. We'll read your comments. Jeff Sidentel going to stop by here in a moment, too. We're going to have a good time with all of him. So get those Zoom calls in here. Let's react to this. Let's just celebrate one of the truly amazing moments in Georgia football history, as memorable, as dramatic a win as there's ever going to be. Now, Terence, let's also kind of deal with the other side of this just so we can say we did. There are going to be a lot of Ohio State fans, whining about the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. does leave this game with an injury. First of all, you'll never hear me say a bad word about that dude. That is a bad man. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a bad man. But ultimately, the hit that he leaves the game on, rightly so, was not targeting. That was correctly ruled on that. It's just a football play. If you're Javon Bullard, you're not going to stand there and let Marvin Harrison catch a touchdown pass. Of course, you're going to try to levy a hit and see if you can separate that man from the football. That's Bullard's job in that situation. I hated that Harrison got hurt. I truly do, because I've got the utmost respect for him, and if I didn't before, you better believe I do now. But ultimately, Bullard made a football play. Harrison got hurt. It's a violent physical game. In this particular case, Harrison was the worst for the wear on that. Ohio State was not the same after he left the game. But you know what? That's the way football goes here in this particular situation. And I really don't have much more to say about it than that. How about your thoughts on this, the fact that, pretty clearly late in this game, Ohio State would have benefited from having Harrison out there?
I can say this. He is by far, without a doubt, in my mind, the best receiver in college football, and it's a shame that he has to come back for another year of college football and can't go into the NFL this season. I've watched him in high school, and honestly, I did not think he was that good or this good. But I can tell you, whatever work he's done, he's worked his his tail off to become the player that he is. I mean, if anybody know his father, Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison, and if you look at his stature, Marvin is about 6 feet, 6'1" maybe, 165 pounds. This kid is 6'4", over 200 pounds. I don't know where he got this height from. Hopefully, maybe mom and that family is tall, but this kid is gifted as they come in. And you're right. The bullet hit was a clean hit. He had an opportunity to catch that football on the back end zone and ball it late. He laid a perfectly timed hit, and unfortunately, he went out the game. And I'm sure we're going to get what if he didn't get hurt like we did last year with Alabama. So all the people come out with the excuses. They can have all the excuses. The game can't be replayed. Georgia's moving on.
I think that's exactly right. If you're on hold on Zoom, we're going to get to you as quickly as we can. We're going to run through a lot of these. Help us make sense of what we've seen here over the course of the last 4 hours or so as we've rung in the start of the new year. It's now 2023, but the mission of Go for Two in the 2022 season, it is still on. We are on our way to L.A. William Green, you're next up. DawgNation Postgame Show presented by the UGA Bookstore. William, how about them dogs? What happened? What did we just see here, William, over the course of this night?
Saw an absolutely outstanding performance from two elite teams. I think Georgia wasted kind of a quarter, but when the clutch gene came in, it came in hard and fast. Stetson's a legend in his own right. And I just wanted to say I'm celebrating this with my wife, my dad, and then this little one right here. This is the last thing. This little dog right here is only one loss. He's been alive for 2 years, so he's absolutely looking forward to being possible back natty champion. So good seeing you, BA. Heck of a game.
William, I absolutely. And to you and your family, obviously, Green Soldier, we love every one of y'all, and we're glad to see y'all having a good time. And honestly, this is a night to have a good time. And listen, if you're hanging out here on this New Year's Eve party night and having a drink, listen, have one for me right now because I feel like I need one. Honestly, I feel like all the Georgia fans in here, we're all kind of shell-shocked. By the way, Darnell Washington has now made his way into the stands. So here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, there's still what looks to be a couple thousand Georgia fans just chilling in the stands here. I don't know how security ever gets them out, but Darnell, who stands – I asked him on Thursday, I said, you ever get tired of every room you walk into, you're, a foot taller than everybody in the room? Like, you can literally see him over there. He's just towering over everybody else. I'd swing the camera around, but I'm afraid our whole apparatus would fall apart. All right, so we got a lot of folks on hold. We'll get to you. Terence is here. It's our DawgNation post-game show presented by the UGA Bookstore. By the way, what a great night. Go to UGABookstore.com and buy up all kinds of UGA gear because if you're going to L.A., you're going to be looking sharp. That's a fashion city. That's a city where everybody kind of cares about their looks. Well, guess what? You're going to have that new UGA gear popping when you go out there. So the UGA Bookstore is the place with the dog shop. It's right there next to Tate Student Center across from Sanford Stadium. You can shop in person. You can shop at UGABookstore.com. Get decked out and dressed up to get messed up possibly, to be in L.A. coming up in January. Cannot wait for that. Hugh Nash, I believe, is next up here on our DawgNation postgame show, presented by the UGA Bookstore. Hugh, you're a great dog fan. You weigh in on so much of the stuff that we do. Has there ever been a night quite like tonight?
Hey, BA. Hey, BA. This is amazing. How about them dogs? I just want to give a quick shout out to my Facebook DawgNation family. And real quick, BA, one of the things I was thinking about, and you interviewed a lot of the players and coaches, but the word that kept coming up in your interviews was connection. And I believe it's moments like these that the connection, the skull sessions, all that stuff really pays off. They don't give up on each other.
Hugh, I think you're absolutely right, and I appreciate the phone call. And here's the point I'm going to make about that, Hugh, is that I think we're all kind of on guard for maybe when players say the thing they feel like they need to say when they're in a meeting situation, a media situation. And yet, sometimes we've all been young before, right? We were all in our 20s. It feels like my 20s start to feel more and more like a long time ago, unfortunately. But the fact is that one time I was in my 20s. And when you're young like that, I think we're all on guard for what it felt like to be a little cynical and a little bit jaded. But on this particular issue, Hugh, the one that you're bringing up, I truly believe this matters to these guys. I really do. We have heard Georgia players speak about this very openly. I'm going to have to move here. We do this every single time. I don't quite know why we have to do it now, but I'm going to have to move. So let me back up here a little bit. So anyway, but these guys, this matters to them. This is something that's real for them. This is something they actually believe in. They have cited this as something that's been a big part of their success formula, and you saw that, on this field. And Terence, a lot of these guys personally, and on a team where you got 85 scholarship players, it's very easy not to know some of your teammates, or when you're competing for the same spots in the field, when you're competing for some of the individual attention. We're in a day and age now where you're also kind of competing for NIL and things like that. It may even be easy to kind of form a little bit of a rivalry with some of those guys, and yet these Georgia coaches have done a good job of preventing that from being the case. And I do think, as Hugh pointed out, that is part of the reason why Georgia's able to win games like this.
Yes, B, I said this last week when we spoke, that I personally believe that this team and the last year's team, they really enjoy and like each other. When you have a team that's divided and worried about their individual success over the team, it was always thought that if the team have success, the individual success would come. But this team plays together. They like each other. They came to Georgia to be in this situation, and I think all the recruits understand that you're not going to put up these big gaudy numbers, especially on the defensive side, because we rotate the front seven so much to keep them fresh. You're not going to have the transition numbers that you're looking for. But what you're going to have is team success. You're going to be developed to get to your ultimate goal. And for 99% of those kids, it's to make it to the NFL. So you come here to Georgia, buy into the culture, buy into what Kirby Smart is selling, that's being developed, playing for championships, and trying to get you to your dream to the NFL. So the culture that he's brought, the culture that he's made right now is what we see displaying out on the field with the team, because they enjoy playing football for the Georgia Bulldogs.
So we're going to go back out to the phones here, but I want to give you what I think is a very interesting stat, is that Georgia only led in this game for what I think our producer Michael Carvell said, about 90 seconds of total game time is all Georgia led. But when it's all said and done, Georgia does outgain Ohio State tonight, 533 to 467, more passing yards, 398 to 348, and more rushing yards there as well, 135 to 119. So after it's all said and done, the offensive explosion that we saw from Ohio State, ultimately Georgia's the one that gets the not just the right end of the scoreboard, but also the right end of the statistical ledger too, in terms of the total offense. In a lot of ways, that might end up being more amazing than anything else, just given the fact that at one point in time, Ohio State was just raining down offense from the sky, and yet when it's all said and done, it's actually Georgia who gets the most there. By the way, there's a beautiful the ring around the stadium here. The board says Happy New Year, ATL to LA. Boy, you love to see that. Let's go back out the phones. Randy's in Tifton. Randy, you're next up with the DawgNation postgame show. How about them dogs? How does it feel to be a dog ringing in the new year on a night like this?
I tell you what, Brandon, I was at a Georgia party, and there was so many. It was like a roller coaster. We was going up and down, up and down, up and down. And I tell you what, thank God, everybody can be, oh, Georgia didn't do this, but we won. It don't matter if we win by 1 point or 1,000. You don't think Michigan up there crying right now wish that they could have won? So Georgia's going to repeat. I'm telling you now, it's just everything went against us in the first half, and we still come out and won. I tell you what, it's a great feeling to be a dog right now. I don't even want to go to bed tonight. I want to watch the game again. And everybody out there,
I like it, Randy. I
tell you what,
you better
Brandon,
believe it, Randy. Great call. We are. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna tell you, everybody be safe tonight. And when you wake up in the morning and go to church, say go Dogs.
I love it, Randy. That's great stuff. That is absolutely fantastic stuff. You're absolutely right. It's going to be hard to get any sleep tonight. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's having fun. And when you get up and go to church in the morning, say that prayer, you're going to have a lot to be thankful for with all of that. And Terence, one of the things that Randy kind of brings up here, this is one of those things that I had kind of talked about on DawgNation Daily a lot of the last few days, is that I just sort of had a feeling this game was setting up to be close. I just sort of had a feeling this game was setting up to be a hard-fought game. And there is a different feeling associated with that. Terence, most of the time that you and I are doing the post-game show, we could have started the postgame show in the third quarter. I mean, a lot of times we only wait to start the postgame show because tradition dictates that we do it when the game ends. But we frankly could have had the conversation on a lot of these nights while the game was still going on because basically the storyline had already been established. Georgia was coasting to an easy victory. But when you have a different kind of game, when you have a kind of game in which mistakes are magnified or big plays are required, the feeling is completely different. Listen, I'm as happy as can be now, but I didn't enjoy any of this while it was going on. I was a nervous wreck the entire time. I didn't tweet very much. I wasn't talking to anybody very much. Just gnawing on my fingernails and just trying to get through this like everybody else was. That's just I shared some video on Twitter a moment ago of Kirby Smart when he was walking back to the locker room. He looked worse from the wear as any of us did because he kind of went through the same kind of stuff. And as Randy said, it's like when you go through that, it's up, it's down, it wears you out. It's a different kind of feeling, Terence, than Georgia's used to having. Maybe since like the Rose Bowl at the end of the 2017 season, it may have been that long since Georgia had this kind of feeling in a game like this. Most of what Georgia's done here in recent years, they are just turning the lights out on us here. They're trying to get these people to leave, what they're trying to do. Most of what Georgia's been through the last couple of years is just not anything like this.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, this game could actually take years off you. I mean, man, we are going to sleep well tonight, but we're going to be thinking about this game in our dreams. We're going to think about this game when we wake up in the morning. I'm sure everyone is going to go and rewatch this game. This is one for the ages. I don't want to rewatch it because I don't want to live through what I just lived through. I can watch the highlights. I can watch that missed kick. I can watch the last 8 minutes of the game when we made our comeback. But let's throw this game in the cellar. Don't bring it back out. Let's get ready for TCU because they bring a different dimension that we haven't really seen with their 3-3-5 defense. So let's celebrate and let's get ready to win another national championship. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
A lot of folks on hold. Ryan Walker, you're next up. Ryan, you've always got great stuff to say, but there's never been a game like this to talk about tonight. How about them dogs? How did it feel to be a part of it?
So, first off, man,
right there.
I'm going to tell you right now, I channeled my inner Fred Sanford tonight. If anybody know about Sanford, son, I was sitting back saying, Lord, Mama, I'm coming to join you. So I channeled that, and I had a shot of Ripple tonight. So I'm just letting you know how bad it was for me. Took about 3 years off my life, and I'm about to turn 36 next Friday, and I'm about to graduate school. So got a little bit of excitement. Hands down, what's going on, Terence? And I wore the shirt for BA tonight, had Larry Munson on for good luck, man. I could just imagine what he would have said. But hands down, I'll take this win.
No doubt.
I'd rather be lucky than good any day, honestly, if you really want to know the truth. We went away from using Brock Bowers. I get they were covering him, but every time he touched the ball tonight, he was key. We should have run the ball a little bit more. We were averaging 7.8 yards per carry tonight. Kendall Milton, Dejon Edwards, and Kenny McIntosh was a threat out of the backfield. The only thing I was probably upset about, I know people have already butchered the secondary, because of how we just gave up yardage tonight to C.J. Stroud and pass rush didn't start getting on to the end. When you're on the 1 yard line and you're averaging 7 yards a carry, don't get cute with this offense. Run the ball. You got three horses in the stable that they couldn't stop tonight, and that offensive line was eating. No disrespect to Ladd, but we shouldn't have thrown that screen to him out to the flats. I mean, we can't play like this against TCU because they capitalize off of teams' mistakes. They did that to Michigan, and they've done that to everyone they've played against. And it's going to be a dogfight, man. I look at it like this. I'm ready to become 2-time national champions back-to-back so we can have a little bit of talking. And I'm definitely going on Heather Denich's Twitter account, and I'm definitely going to troll because she's been clowning us all year, saying that we were going to lose. We got this win, and we playing for the natty, man. So rest in peace to Larry Munson. I can already hear his voice. And shout out to the guys on DawgNation, man. Y'all are the legacy. So thank y'all for what y'all do, guys. And thank you, Terence, for being great.
Ryan, we love you.
Thank you.
Ryan, we love you so much. We appreciate that great New Year's Day message. And Terence, I'm not going to lie to you. there definitely was a little bit of a rough draft out there for what this show was going to be like had the final score not been what it was. And, we would have talked more about a secondary that struggled, about a running game that maybe wasn't, fully leaned on the way that it could have been, a Brock Bowers that wasn't used to the degree that maybe he could have been. All of that was going to be on the table had the final score looked different. And I am so thankful on this night we don't have to do any of that because it's true and it's real and almost cost them the game. But it didn't. Dogs on top. So I am so glad that all the very true things that Ryan said, that we didn't have to lead off the show talking about what went wrong, because for a while it seemed like that might be what we were going to do.
Right. And I think all of us are going to be sick because it didn't look great there for a stretch of the game. And we did, like Mike said, we only led for 90 seconds of the game or whatever. So you got to give credit to Ohio State. They came in and had a great game plan. And, we finished, as Coach Rick would say, we finished the drill.
We're going to try to do this. We're going to try to run through as many calls as we can very, very quickly, kind of rapid fire here. So we're going to move you on, move you off, kind of get you going with that. Isha, you're next up here on the DawgNation Postgame Show presented by the UGA Bookstore. Isha, welcome in. How about them Dogs? How much fun was this one tonight?
Look, it was great. Hello, Terence. Hello, BA. We just celebrated New Year's here in Texas. So we're all behind y'all. But look, it was a struggle. Like I was telling somebody else, it wasn't going too good. So I had to. I thought, man, I ain't had a drink all day. I said, man, let me pull out a beer and see if the luck changed. And I know, oh hell, it did. I don't know if it had anything to do with it, but I'm glad it changed. I guess I wasn't as disappointed as other people. I just kind of I always let the game play out. And somehow I had a feeling that it would. I don't know how, but I just had a feeling that it would. And by gosh, it did. So I'm happy to celebrate the new year with a Georgia win. And we can continue with the next challenge, which is beating TCU. One of my best friends that I was in the Army with, like a brother to me, he's a TCU fan. So he was talking to me again tonight about the game. So it's me against him, and may the best man win.
Isha, that's good stuff, man. I'm glad you got that relationship in your life, and I know you're going to have a lot of fun going back and forth with each other over the course of the next few days, and obviously we appreciate your great call. I think you said it so well there. We got Jeff Sentell on the scene here, too. He's just been in a victorious Georgia locker room. Jeff, this was history. This was as amazing a win, given all the circumstances, as Georgia has ever had. What was the reaction to we've seen the players, by the way, over here in the stands for the last half hour. What was it like in the locker room a moment ago?
Kind of like you just got hit in the mouth by Mike Tyson and you didn't fall down. That's kind of what they all felt like. It was funny. Probably the toughest question in the locker room is you got to ask him, what was the biggest play?
Yeah.
Because there's the timeout on the fake punt. There's the defender falling down on Arian Smith. He said he just shook him out of his world. And then you've got, obviously, the missed field goal. You've got the fourth down call that was not a turnover on downs. It was a replay and a reversal, which I thought was huge. You have the redemption story of A.D. Mitchell. Is that enough?
Yeah, well.
Which one's your favorite?
Well, it's a good point, Terence. We haven't even talked about Kirby Smart calling the timeout that prevented the fake punt. We talked about the Aaron Smith thing, which I think, was kind of my leader for play of the game. But in all honesty, the Kirby timeout, Terence, that may have been the most clutch timeout that's ever been called in the history of college football.
Right. So whoever was in his ear upstairs did a great job, because they definitely would have got that first down. That was a great formation that they used on that, and I think that is definitely one of the biggest plays in the game. And Coach Smart wasn't even on the field to make a play per se, but he made the call timeout, and then they had the punt, and we went to score on that drive. So that timeout was definitely a big timeout, probably the best timeout in college football history.
Yeah. Let's go to William Myra. William, you're next up here on the DawgNation Postgame Show, presented by the UGA Bookstore. How about them Dogs? William, what a night. What was your thoughts on it?
Wow.
Unmute yourself so we can hear you, by the way. Yeah, go ahead.
Long podcast listener, first-time caller. Thrilled to be on the show. Let me run through a couple of things. First of all, we didn't play our best game today. They played, I think, near their best. We played poorly in stretches of this game, still won. Got to clean those things up. Jalen Carter looked tired early in the game in the first half. I don't know. Hopefully that conditioning gets worked out. Ultimately, AD Mitchell comes up huge. We need more from Brock Bowers, but we had some playmakers in this game that played really well. We have a lot to work on for the next game, but ultimately, I just have to say, I think fans if there's anybody who is not thrilled about this right now, I mean, think about this. All of the guys we lost, 15 players in the draft last year, 5 first-rounders on defense, and we're still playing this way. This isn't off season. This is what would be a rebuilding year for many teams. We're in the championship again. We have it rolling right now. This program has it rolling. The way Kirby is recruiting, the way we coach, that timeout, amazing that you brought that up. Just squeaked by here, but we have a chance to win another national championship. We have a chance to go for 2-22 here. And and this is a year where we really shouldn't even be as good as we are. So I think with the way this team is playing, with the way we're recruiting in next year or maybe the year after that, this defense could be better than it was last year with the way we've been recruiting. I think the sky's the limit for this program, and it's a really good sign for us, not just in this year, but going forward as well.
William, that's beautifully said. Thank you so much. And I think you're absolutely right about everything you just said there. And Jeff, one of the points he also brought up was the fact that it was really a pretty quiet night for Jalen Carter, especially early in this game. Had the one chance to get the sack and kind of missed on Stroud, and Stroud did such a good job tonight of making guys miss. He really had an amazing night. You got to give, tip your hat to him. But, on Friday, I said that Carter is Georgia's most important player in this game, and that really he was going to be the key to victory. If you would have told me that Carter would have ultimately as quiet a night as he turned out to have, I guess I don't believe I would have given Georgia much shot at victory. And yet I think it speaks to the fact that he got picked up by what Arian Smith and A.D. Mitchell and Kenny McIntosh are doing offensively, picked up by what John Bullard does defensively. The other defensive names you're going to mention, and Bear Alexander kind of rotating in there some, that ultimately you had guys stepping up in a game where a million plays were made. They kind of stepped up and they helped fill the void from the fact that Jalen Carter, at least tonight, wasn't quite the Jalen Carter we've come to expect him to be.
For me, you were talking about most outstanding player, most outstanding play. I got one thought and then a question. One thought is when Georgia went for 2, was that in 2022 or was it in 2023 by then?
I like that's a good point, yeah.
Because we need to go back and check the records on that. Anybody that was watching their phones or watching their time, but I got your play of the game. This was the defensive player of the game. That was Javon Bullard. Do you remember? I don't know. That was a good, tough football play to me.
I totally was.
But importantly, apparently in the Pac-12, that is targeting. But here's why.
Let me tell you something. Those refs need to go back to San Francisco where they came from, because down here, that's just what football is.
And who's going to be calling? Which refs are going to be calling the national championship game?
I don't know, but it better not be that much.
But that play right there, Brandon, I think, and Terence probably appreciate this, when Georgia made a tough hit and Marvin Harrison was no longer allowed to return to the game. Now, folks, that's football. How many Georgia football games have we seen where a key injury for Georgia comes out, sometimes on this field here, right here itself, and then the game is totally different afterward? I thought in my mind's eye, Ohio State was different offensively without Marvin Harrison Jr. What they relied on for the most part after that was C.J. Stroud. Played a great game, but he was running around like Bryce Young back there in the SEC championship game. His legs kind of kept that offense going a little bit in the fourth quarter.
Also, the weatherman called. He's predicting a long, cold winter in the Rust Belt. Let's go to Drew. Drew, you're next up here on the DawgNation postgame show, presented by the UGA bookstore. Drew, glad to have you here.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Long-time listener. First time getting on here, trying to get on the Zoom and everything. I think, why not, right? I'm here in Pike County, Georgia, which is close to Griffin UGA campus cut right there. I'm pretty excited too that Jeff jumped on right kind of before I got on. Really big, huge fan and appreciate what y'all do and appreciate what Jeff does and everything. But insane, absolutely insane. Me and my buddies who couldn't be together to watch it tonight were Facebook group calling each other off and on the whole game, and to pull that out like that, I made a joke and I said, if that ain't the most Alabama win ever. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen Alabama win games like that, but just the guts and the no-quit attitude by that team just blew me away. And to be on the end of something like that is special, and that's something that you remember for a long time, and that's something that'll be on those replays you see before the next year, before the games kick off and everything. And I hope they can go for 2 and 22-22. I have a really good feeling. I have so much respect for C.J. Stroud in Ohio State. I hope if he's there, the Falcons are smart and draft that dude. That dude is unreal. The way Georgia's recruiting, I don't think they're going to go anywhere. I have so much respect for TCU also. I think I saw somewhere the spread's 13 points, I think. At this point, you might as well not even look at the point spread right now because TCU is going to leave it all on the field, and so is UGA. And I hope I have a good feeling that we're going to go for 2 and 22 and go back to back, which would be amazing. I'm so proud of this team. I'm so proud of Stetson. I'm proud of the defense for making the stops when they needed to, and I really appreciate y'all letting me come on and being able to show my appreciation to you guys and Terence Edwards also. I really appreciate y'all, and I appreciate it.
Drew, great conversation. Appreciate that. Thanks for those kind words. And Terence, as he was talking, one of the things I was thinking about what he said is the problem with like modern times is that so many of our game day conversations are archived. You know, if you're texting back and forth, those texts are saved somewhere. If you're tweeting back and forth, it's the same kind of thing. And like you can go back and sort of read some of the stuff that was said throughout the game, and it's definitely like a roller coaster of excitement at the beginning, a lot of disappointment there for the end, and then you kind of sort of getting back up before it's all said and done again, back to the top again. There was definitely a roller coaster of emotions, and for a lot of folks, that was playing out. It was playing out in these seats behind me in the stadium. It was playing out in these text threads or Facebook conversations or whatever other social platform. Terence, there was a lot of that going on. I'm sure you probably had a good bit of that going on with your former teammates and friends as well.
Oh, we did. You know, the text, the group chats was really blowing up. You know, one of my best friends, Damien Gary, we talked and text the whole game. So it was blowing up. It was, like I spoke about earlier, was, man, probably some bad words that I can't say over the air. Then some good words and back to back. And, you know, that last kick, and we all hallelujah, thank God, praise the Lord. And I just saw my roommate, Randy Michael. Everyone have to go see his IG page, and his excitement, it is hilarious. So go to Randy McMichael's Instagram and see his game-winning field goal excitement.
Cassie Turner, you're next up here at the DawgNation postgame show, presented by the UGA Bookstore. Cassie, how did it feel tonight? How about them Dogs? How much fun was all of this?
Well, the feeling I'm feeling right now is fun. The feeling I was feeling during the game was absolute misery. It was miserable to watch, to be quite honest. But I did lose my voice and scare the dog when we were screaming when they won. So that's nice.
Cassie, what will you remember from this game more than anything else?
Oh, absolutely the grit that these guys had to get it done. I mean, it was amazing what they managed to do. It was very impressive. It felt very much Rose Bowl.
It did, Cassie. It's a great comparison. A lot of feeling similar to the Rose Bowl. And the other thing that Cassie brings up, Jeff, is that I definitely felt this way. I don't know that there's ever been a bigger Georgia game that I didn't enjoy a second of, and I really was just sort of miserable the entire time. Not miserable, mad, just sort of in knots because of the tension of it. I expected this to be a tough game. It was a tough game. Georgia was hanging on by a razor's edge, thin margin for such a long time. At the end, it only got worse. It's as tied up in knots as I've been with the Georgia game and forever, probably, as Cassie said, since that Rose Bowl.
Since the Rose Bowl. I think if we're doing our game stories tonight, Georgia was down by 14 at one point. Georgia was down by 11 in the fourth quarter. You look at all these things, Brandon, and it really felt like the first lead happens with 43 seconds left, and we all saw that, and we all thought our inner Munson. Look at the time on the clock. There's way too much time on the clock. This is the same squad that went 70 yards on 4 plays before the half. You know, the real cool story, a lot of cool stories are going to come out of this from the locker room, is that I asked like 5 guys that were in the huddle with Stetson. You know, you remember that story about John Candy in the Super Bowl? You know, Joe Montana comes out and he's like, hey, there's John Candy. And everybody in the offense was just chilled out because the quarterback was looking in the crowd during the timeout. Well, there were 3 different versions of what Stetson Bennett told his team. Kenny McIntosh's, man, I don't know what he said. I'm sitting there thinking about blitzes. I'm thinking about protections. I'm thinking about what I got to do. I'm thinking about trying to get my quarterback clean. And then I think Tate Ratledge, broadcaster in his own right, has a little bit of clarity. He said Stetson comes up there and he says, boys, give me time and we'll get this thing done. That needs to go in a T-shirt, right?
That's great. That's good stuff.
Broderick was like, he said something. By the way, Broderick, I don't know, but everybody knows this. He's had a wrist injury since the SEC championship. Still fighting, still rehabbing, still going through it. And Broderick, Brandon, I don't know if that ball was incomplete, A.D. Mitchell for that touchdown. I don't know if Broderick would have had to come out because he was literally like that. So many unsung, and it's this man's job right here to sing all those unsung heroes tonight.
Tyson, you're next up on the DawgNation Postgame Show, presented by the UGA Bookstore. Tyson, what a night. What did you think about it?
Well, to be honest, I ruined my family's New Year, so I had to turn it off when it went up 21-7. I just had to. And I had one of my daughters, she kept giving me updates, and finally with about 8 minutes left, I put it back on, and I'm so happy I did. I had another daughter pull up the countdown, and it was about 5 seconds after they missed that field goal. We did a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown and screamed Happy New Year. I can't believe it. This is, I thinking of Munson and saying, I gave up, so did you. And, then I think of the highlights of the hype video of Kirby saying this was a 4-quarter game. I promise you, I'll never give up on this team again. They're amazing. So happy that I turned the game back on, and I'm even happier that we have a chance to still make history. And I appreciate everything that y'all do. I appreciate y'all letting me come on here, and go Dogs, and Happy New Year.
Tyson, thank you so much. So well said. And, Terrence, we're hearing this from a number of callers. That is really the takeaway here, is the fact that this team just never showed any quit whatsoever. You can break down the individual moments. There'll be plenty of time to do that. But it's the feeling of the game that probably matters right now. The resiliency, the never say die attitude. That was the thing that just became palpable about these Dogs tonight.
Oh, most definitely. They definitely didn't give up. Coaches always try to get the teams to play 60-minute football, and that's exactly what we did tonight. Even when things did not look well, it looked great. It didn't look like we had a chance. These kids continue to fight their butt off, and when you fight and never get up, this is what happens. I myself left the stadium earlier trying to beat traffic to get on to do DawgNation tonight. So I wasn't pleased when I left the stadium, but I sat in my driveway with my phone in my hand. I couldn't even go in the house. I didn't want to miss anything. And when he missed that kick, like I said earlier, I ran around my neighborhood screaming, he missed it, he missed it. We on to the national championship, and I'm so happy. I'm so grateful that I was able to watch this with my own eyes, and how the stories are going to be 20, 30 years from now, and we can finish this season. That will probably go down as the greatest game in Georgia football history.
Daniel Aldridge, you're next on the DawgNation Postgame Show, presented by the UGA Bookstore. How about them Dogs? What a night. What will you remember from it, Daniel?
This man right here, Stetson Bennett. Everybody.
That's right, Stetson Bennett.
You're right. Everybody doubted Stetson. I always said Stetson Bennett was in it to win it. And he did it. He did it with a good team. And Georgia, I think, is going to go ahead and win that second national championship, just like I said at the first of the year. But I want to give a good shout out to C.J. Stroud. He played one hell of a game. Excuse my French. But this is the best game that I've seen in college football. And I'm 64 years old, will be 65 in March. And this is one of the best I've ever seen. And how about them
No
Dogs?
doubt about that, Daniel. How about them Dogs? How about them, Daniel? Great stuff. Well said. In fact, in honor of your call, what do you say we go ahead and make Stetson Bennett our player of the game? Because guess what? 398 yards, 3 touchdowns, did have an interception. But on a night when C.J. Stroud was fantastic, Stetson Bennett was everything that Georgia needed. And I do think that legendary status was cemented, if it wasn't already, coming on the heels of being a Heisman finalist, coming out and playing a game like this with obviously one more game still to come in his career. Daniel, you said it so well. We'll make him our player of the game, presented by Wilson PC, personal injury attorneys. So congratulations to him. Let me also give a shout out to our friends at Wilson PC here in a moment. Obviously, we're in Atlanta right now. It's going to be a madhouse getting out of here, which means Atlanta can happen out of nowhere. And so when you have the unexpected happen to you, that's when our friends at Wilson PC, personal injury attorneys, want to step up, and they want to really make you whole again if you've been injured in an accident, if something like that happens. So reach out and talk to them here right now. You can get in touch with them by going to their website, atlantahappens.com, atlantahappens.com. By the way, Atlanta's been a pretty good thing to happen to these dogs here this year for the third time here at MBS, but atlantahappens.com for Wilson PC personal injury attorneys. Also give them a call, 888-838-UWIN. That's 888-838-UWIN. All right, so here's what I'm trying to do. Terence and Jeff, hang with me. But I want to try to go like hurry up, no huddle for a second and just kind of roll through some of these phone calls. We're coming up on an hour being on the air. I'm sure Terence wants to go to sleep, so we're going to let him do that in a minute. But let's just kind of go hurry up, no huddle. We'll let folks say what they say. Jeff, you mind hanging with us for a second on that? Terence, hopefully you don't mind doing that. We'll get you all out of here in a minute, but we just want to give folks their chance to bask in the glory of an unbelievable night. Chris Slim White's a great dog fan. We hear so much from him. Chris, your thoughts on an amazing night. You're next up here on the DawgNation Postgame Show, presented by the UGA Bookstore. Chris, go ahead. Hey, Chris, you're live on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, how y'all doing? Congratulations, man.
Doing well.
We back there. And the first thing I want to say is...
Back in that national title game.
That's right. People need to stop saying our secondary played bad. Our secondary had to cover for like 5, 6, 7 seconds every play. You running behind top wide receivers and they running all the way across the field, and you can't ask nobody to cover for that long. But when it came down to it, Keely Ringo did make that play that we needed. And I'm happy. We celebrating over here in Centersville.
I like it.
And that's how we doing it. Y'all have a good one.
Hey, good stuff, Chris. Thanks for calling. And I think you're right about that, unfortunately tonight, Georgia just did not get enough pass rush. Now, thankfully, you had guys stepping up to make plays, to cover up for some areas in which Georgia wasn't at its best. But pretty clearly, that was the thing I think was probably frustrating the most Georgia fans throughout the game was, in fact, the pass rush just was not coming to the defense of this secondary, that they were kind of hung out to dry just simply because Georgia wasn't getting after the quarterback. But ultimately, it ends up not mattering. And, Chris, you bring up a great point. I told you we'll go hurry up, no huddle. I'm going to be a man of my word here. Bryce Dixon, you're next up. DawgNation Postgame Show, presented by the UGA Bookstore. Bryce, how about them dogs tonight, buddy?
Oh, man, I was so excited. I know everybody else at the game was excited, but, man, that was an unbelievable game. I mean, that probably tops the Rose Bowl, I think. I can't imagine what all the recruits that was watching was thinking, but, man, that was just amazing. Just see, A.D. Mitchell back out there making some big plays for us was amazing. And they had Aaron Smith, the track star, with his blazing speed, man. He's amazing. I just
talk about the ball.
Yeah, Bryce, you're absolutely right. I appreciate the phone call. I think you're right. And I thought that Arian Smith was tonight. He shows you. Hey, yeah, we'll get right to you. He just sort of shows you when you have that blazing speed, when you can extend yourself from the secondary, obviously you put yourself in a position to be so successful, including tonight. That's what Arian Smith was doing. Next up, here's John Broadnax. John, we're glad to have you here. How about them dogs? What'd you feel about UGA tonight? John, unmute yourself so we can hear you. John, go ahead. Unmute yourself, and we'll hear what you have to say tonight.
Hey, can you hear me now?
I sure can,
Hello?
John. Everybody can hear you now. You're live on the air, my friend. You're live on the air.
Kirby Smart, the Bulldogs, baby, Georgia. It was a nail biter, y'all. Oh, my God. They had me on my on the edge of my chair, fighting and claw. It was a good game. That was one of the best games I ever seen in my life. Oh, my God. Man, I'm going to turn around and let y'all see that jersey. Special made bonus, baby. Yes, sir. It was a dog fight, though, Adam. I'm telling you, it's, woo. Yeah, we got it done, though.
You're right about that, and I appreciate. Yeah, we got it done. I appreciate the call. You're right about that. It's funny watching Kirby walk off the field earlier. He had his shirt untucked. He's tired. He's kind of wiping sweat from his brow. Like, he had absolutely the look that you'd expect from somebody who was in the dogfight you described it as being. There's no doubt that's true. And
it was
it was quite a thing to see.
Hey, we fought that thing. Yeah, we got to finish off the next one, though, now. We got to get that next one.
Watching Kirby walk up. John, good stuff. Thanks for being here. Enjoy your Happy New Year. Appreciate you being a part of the show tonight. Thank you so much. And, Terence, I'm sure you kind of know what that feels like because you've coached a whole bunch of games there yourself. And, sometimes when you're on the sideline, you're expending as much energy doing that as you are when you're out there on the field, maybe even more so because you don't have a way to release that tension. Kirby looked like somebody, when he walked off here, who had been through it all. He'd been through all the battles and all the fights, and he clearly left it on the field just like these players did tonight.
No one stopped me. I have tunnel vision. I just need to get to this bus and decompress. I think the ride back to it, he's just going to whoop side and just take a load off it. Man, this game here probably took some years off his life, but he'll take this type of game. That means we're going to win and move on. He'll take these 10 out of 10 times. So he did a great job. His coaching staff did a great job, and the players did a great job, and the fans did a great job, man. The Georgia fans had that place rocking, and I'm just so excited. I think everyone is. I'm probably ignoring to the people that's in my group chats and everybody that I'm texting right now that is not Georgia fans. I'm not going to stop. If your team is not playing on Monday, you don't really have a lot to say to me because I'm going to be that dog tonight.
Listen, I know that. You better believe there's going to be barking. There's barking in the streets. What is it Alabama once saying? Barking and hollering. There's going to be some barking and hollering tonight all across Atlanta indeed. We got, is it Will Gleaton? Will, you're next up here on the DawgNation postgame show. You want to turn your camera on? You can, but go ahead and share us with your thoughts about these Georgia Bulldogs.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Yes, sir.
We sure can. You're live on the air.
Yes.
Yeah, my video's not working. Terrence, man, I love you, brother. I'm glad you're
here. No problem.
And I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
BA, Jeff, boy, fellas, you guys bring it every week, and I appreciate everything you do. My 14-year-old son told me this earlier. Through all the heartache and the ups and downs of this game, he said, you know what happened? You know what turned this game was that timeout on 4th down. When Kirby said, ho, I'm going to call a timeout right now. I want to hear what y'all have to say about that. Y'all remember that one?
Absolutely right. I appreciate the phone call. I do. I remember it, and I appreciate you bringing that up. That's a great call. Thanks for being with us. And, Jeff, the point he's making is a good one, and we mentioned this a little bit earlier. When Ohio State had the chance to fake the punt and convert and keep the football, Kirby saw it coming, called the timeout. It preserved Georgia's chance of victory. I don't think this win happens if Kirby doesn't pull that timeout. It was absolutely a heads-up play, and I think the kind of move that a veteran coach who's now been on the job for, going on 8 years now, that it's the kind of move that a veteran coach is able to make.
Well, I can't help but think of something New Year's Eve related, Brandon. That was the straw that stirred the drink on a lot of something else good to happen. The Arian Smith moment, the Brock moment, all those moments. And I want to have a quick moment here, Brandon. I want everybody out there viewing, watching DawgNation video channels. Let's come clean. How many people were already talking to your significant other about, we got those refundable tickets, right? Oh, what's wrong with Stetson Bennett? Brandon, what? Stetson Bennett tonight, correct if I'm wrong, he hit another gear in the legend of Stetson Bennett tonight. 10 out of 12, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was in the 4th quarter tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you said it on our SEC Championship postgame show. On the stage games, the ones when they roll the stage out to celebrate when it's all said and done, Bennett's always at his best right there. And the other point that Jeff made, and I'm going to give our audience credit, listen, we've had so many folks who have been honest. They were saying, hey, I was kind of packing in. I was kind of giving it up. I wasn't quite so sure. Our folks are certainly not casting themselves as heroes right now. They're admitting that at one point in time, they were maybe down. They were maybe counting things out. But thankfully, the Georgia Bulldogs themselves on the field never did that. Daryl, you're next up here on the DawgNation postgame show, presented by the UGA Bookstore. Make sure you unmute yourself, and then go ahead and let us know how you feel about these Dogs tonight. Go for 2 and 22. How did it feel, Daryl?
Man, can you hear me?
I sure can.
All right. I know after we beat Alabama, everybody was talking about, oh, they would have won if they'd had their receivers. But, cue up Ohio State tomorrow. They're going to be talking the same thing about Harrison. But they're going to forget that we lost Darnell and I think Chambliss. So we overcame a lot this year to get this far, and Dogs on top, take it all the way.
Thank you so much for sharing. And Terence, I think the thing here that's probably true is that when Georgia got over the hump last year against an opponent that I think we'd kind of been waiting to see Georgia get past in the case of Alabama, I think an entirely new level of belief may have been unlocked in this team, and all of a sudden tonight, a win like this seemed possible, even though they were right there up against being knocked out of the game, right there up against having no chance. A win like this ultimately seemed possible because the fact that Georgia earned so much self-confidence and so much belief based on what it did last January in Indianapolis, which is, by the way, coming up on a year ago now. But Georgia really has just kind of picked back up right where they left off.
Most definitely. I think beating Alabama finally in that big game, in the national championship game, when we just lost to them probably a month before. So there's still that little doubt, can we ever beat them? And we finally beat them in the national championship game. So the players, especially the ones that played in that game, you can pull for those situations and try to find things in that Alabama game last year to take and play off. And I know Stetson played in a lot of football games. He's played in a lot of big games. So the moment is never too big for him. So, and you can take that away from those type games for Stetson. And we have a leader that the moment is not too big for him. He has a common presence that he can pursue around his teammates. So, you definitely could take situations from the past and put them in the future. And Stetson Bennett is that. And before we go to the call, I just tweeted this, B. I said, when Georgia wins our second national championship back-to-back, does Stetson move as the most famous dog in Georgia history? I say yes.
I mean, I certainly think he's on, as we say, the Mount Rushmore, right? I mean, he is certainly putting himself in a very rare category. He already was that, and amazingly, I think you're bringing up a great point. He's actually even added to that legacy even more so by what he does tonight. So, Terence, I think that's a strong comment. I think that's very well said. Robert Hosea, you're next up here on the DawgNation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. Robert, we appreciate you being here. How about them Dogs? How'd you feel tonight?
Oh, sir, I'm feeling real good right now. And I'll make this extremely quick right now for you. Hey, Jeff. Hey, BA. Hey, Terence. And I'll step right out here on Columbus, Ohio soil for all of you right now. And I'll say, go Dogs! Sick 'em! You got it, baby. Columbus, Ohio is another dog here for you. Love it.
Robert, that is good stuff, my man. I appreciate that. What a way to celebrate on a night like this. Robert, I love it.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff from Robert Hosea right there. Thanks for checking in, Robert. Giving you the Go Dogs, sick 'em, letting everybody in Columbus, Ohio hear about that. Robert, appreciate the phone call. What else do you remember of this game here tonight?
Honestly, me and my dad were talking. We were a little scared for a little bit of time, but honestly, we trusted in the team. We trusted in Kirby, and a little scared of Keely Ringo for a second there. But, overall, the team held strong, and I'm proud of them.
I think that's right, Robert. Really good stuff. Appreciate that. And listen, Terence, that's what it's all about, right, is that, there were some guys that weren't at their best. There were some guys that, hey, maybe had some plays they'd like to have back. But in a game when there's darn near 100 points scored, there's going to be other opportunities for more players to kind of pick up and help out there. And that's the one thing this team kept doing is one guy coming to support another. And if there was a mishap somewhere along the way, another Georgia player was right there, one step behind to make a big play to make up for that. And that's just what this team has done. They've picked each other up all season long. And, I think in light of some things tonight that were admittedly imperfect, the fact that Georgia made all the plays they needed to make up for that, that's one of the things that was special about this game.
Yes, I talked about earlier that they're going to move the ball. They're going to get their yards. They're going to score their points. I just didn't need that Arian Smith type 80-yard bomb that just electrifies the stadium. Yes, they moved the football. Marvin Harrison is a great receiver. So Keelan and that defensive back crew had their hands full. This is the best receiving core I think that we have played overall. I know Tennessee receiving core is very good as well, but Marvin Harrison is the best in the game right now. So that for us not to give them that big explosive play says a lot. Yes, they moved the ball methodically too, but we didn't give up the big 80-yard, 50-yard, 60-yard bombs.
Well, no worries.
In the morning, Terence, are you still good? Do you need to go? Are you good to hang out with us for a couple more minutes here?
I'm good.
All right, so Terence is still good. I just want to make sure because I don't want to make anybody have to stay up past their bedtime here. But we're going to hang out in this Mercedes-Benz Stadium until they kick us out. Matt, you're next up on the DawgNation postgame show in the UGA bookstore. The floor is yours, my friend. How about them dogs? How did you enjoy this one?
BA, so I enjoyed it by getting about 50% more gray and enjoying another bottle of champagne. But holy smokes, I've got to say, and hold on, let me bring Gabby. Here's my wife. Hello, everybody. There's Gabby. That was something to remember. So all I'm going to say is, I don't know, the amount of stress that put on us all was fantastic. I mean, what can we say other than the fact that just we pulled it out? I have nothing other to say than that. I mean, BA, I don't know how many times I had to walk away. I don't know how many more gray hairs I grabbed or I grew, growing that, or just, I don't know. Happy New Year's. I have no words. I know that's kind of a misnomer for me. I know I usually have a lot of words, but tonight I don't. That was just an amazing game. I lost a few years, but we're still here, and we have a national championship to play for. So, champagne, everybody. Happy New Year's. That's it. That's all I have to add.
No doubt. No doubt, Matt. You're absolutely right about that. I think you're right. And we said this to sort of start things off, which is sometimes it's just about being appreciative, right? It's like, I really don't know how to explain how this happened. Yeah, Arian Smith made a big catch. Yeah, Kirby Smart called a timeout. And yeah, Stetson made a big throw. And yeah, Ohio State made a field goal. Like, those are the facts. But the actual feelings, the actual connective tissue and all that is so much more difficult to piece back together. But our producer, Michael Carvel, said this before the show started. I totally agree with this. I'm just glad I'm alive to see it. Like, I don't know that I'm talented enough to explain it, but I'm glad I was alive to see it. And I'll remember it forever. And I don't know, man. It's just a special, special night. And I just feel so, the team talks about the connection they have with each other, the connectedness that Kirby's preached. I felt such a deep connection to everybody in the stadium because I was sitting in the stands for most of the first half and then went back to the press box after that. But just watching the way that these Georgia fans are just living and dying with every moment of this team. They're spending hundreds of dollars to be here, and they're just living and dying with every moment. And when you share that much emotion with the same people in the same room, you better believe you walk out connected to them for life, and that's the way the DawgNation feels with each other right now. There's no doubt about that. Mark, you're next up here on our DawgNation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. Mark, how about them dogs? What was it like? How did it feel? What will you remember about a night not to be forgotten?
Well, I would say it's going to be a miracle night. I mean, like 50-yard field goal. And I'm really happy for the dogs. We pulled it out in the clutch. And one more thing, Happy New Year to all my dog fans. And go dogs! Go
dogs!
Love it. That is good stuff. Good stuff. Terence, last year dogs got to ring in New Year. here in Miami, now ringing in New Year's, kind of in our hometown here of Atlanta, at least my hometown of Atlanta, in our home state, we'll say it that way. I believe there's some pretty big-time New Year's Eve parties taking place here right now. Don't you think so?
Oh, most definitely. I don't know what the New Year's parties would have been like if we would have lost this game, but I can tell you that there's a lot of happy times right now, especially in DawgNation. We're going to bring in 2023 right. We got one more game, and we're going to make some history back-to-back. That Kirby is already in lure of becoming the greatest coach in Georgia history. If he pulls this off, man, I've just been thinking about Herschel and Coach Dooley and all this. But Kirby might be, the greatest coach in Georgia history when we win this back-to-back. 3 national championship games in his short period of time. When we win on next Monday night, he'll be 2-3 in national championship games. He is headed that way, and we all love Vince Dooley. We all love Herschel, but at some point, people can pass them. And Kirby is definitely on his way to becoming the greatest coach in Georgia history.
Terence, I think it's so well said. The thing that Terence is saying is that right now Kirby Smart's putting together the kind of career that could really put him at the top of the history of Georgia. And we all have great reverence for Vince Dooley. Of course we would. But for me, Jeff, to follow up on Terence's point, it's the nature of the game now. You have these playoff games that maybe Coach Dooley wouldn't have had in his era, where you have the chance at a 15-game schedule. And the 15-game schedule then gives you a chance for more memorable wins. This is the kind of thing that wouldn't have existed in the Mark Richt era and in the Vince Dooley era. You didn't have this extra game, this extra opportunity. But if you look at the greatness of Kirby Smart as a coach, a huge portion of that greatness is told by the fact that they're now undefeated in national semifinal games, a thrilling win against Oklahoma, a thrilling win tonight against Ohio State, and a dominant blowout win against Michigan. Oh, yeah, by the way, those are 3 of the biggest brands in the history of the sport. They're all, near the top in terms of all-time program wins. And I don't think it's saying too much, as Terence just did, that it's the makings of what is going to be remembered as an honest-to-goodness, historic, maybe greatest coach in Georgia history already. But certainly, the sky is the limit in terms of the resume and the legacy for Kirby Smart.
What is it, 33 out of 34 now, or 32 out of 33? Brandon, you get me thinking. And here's what really touches me, Brandon. When you mention Coach Dooley, I kind of wear certain things on game day because of that. And Coach Dooley, the late, great Coach Dooley, I want you to remember, do you remember he had a quote this year, the last year of his life, where he said, Kirby Smart will wind up as the greatest coach in Georgia football history. And that gets me a little choked up, because what I think about is I think about Indianapolis, and I think about being 3 feet away from Dooley and Coach Dooley and Coach Smart. And that moment, man, I'll never forget. I can watch 1 million more football games. I can see 10 more Georgia victories as great as that one. But when you have the time stamp of a legend with a legend coming right up. And Brandon, this is, everybody says golden era, define it, raise a glass to it, raise another glass to it. Georgia's never been like this, Brandon.
Never.
It's never.
Never. A few programs have.
Kids about it. This is becoming Nebraska in the 90s. This is becoming what the U thought it had in the O's. And it is walking the path of the Alabama dynasty. And not so fast, my friends. These teams, they're only going to get better.
Yeah. It's amazing. Let's do this. Let's do a cruise around the SEC courtesy of Royal Caribbean. We're going to kind of fudge the format here a little bit. Terence, let me ask you, did you watch much? Were you able to see much? Because I know you were here at the game tonight. Were you able to see much of the TCU-Michigan game as we're cruising around the SEC here? Georgia cruising its way to Los Angeles. Were you able to see much of that? TCU builds the big lead. Michigan tries to come back. But TCU really just kind of gave them all they wanted all day long. What did you make of these Horned Frogs today?
Yes, I watched the whole game. This was my first time being able to watch TCU play. I can tell you, I came out very impressed. Defensively, they run a very complex 3-3-5 defense that's very unique. You don't see that very much. I think Arkansas kind of runs a version of the 3-3-5. So people think you can run the ball against that, and they're very gap sound on the defense, and they play hard. They have a receiver that is 6'4", that is really good. It's probably going to be a first-round pick. The quarterback, Max Duggan, I've never seen him play this year. I know he was invited to the Heisman finalists. I've never seen the guy play, but he's a football player. He's able to throw the football downfield. They like to throw the ball deep a lot, and once they get into the red zone, they use his toughness in the red zone. They have a big, strong running back, Miller, who got hurt tonight. He's about 220 pounds, and who's a downhill runner. So they impressed me tonight. So I hope the Georgia fans don't think it's just going to be a runaway victory for us.
Sure.
I think we're the better team, but they're going to come out to try to prove something. And TCU is going to bring everything that they have. We have to play our best to win this game.
Jeff, how about an early thought from you on TCU? Some well-spoken comments from Terence there. How about you? How much of the Horned Frogs did you see beat Michigan today? I'll admit I was surprised by that, but I've been surprised by TCU all year long. So that's really nothing new in terms of me getting it wrong when it comes to these Horned Frogs. But for you, early thoughts on the matchup for a national championship in Los Angeles coming up in just a few days' time?
Well, I think very explosive football team. That's the one thing I saw. I saw them look up, and there was a 70-yarder, an 80-yarder. I see them putting a lot of points on the board. I think that's going to be two teams with two really mentally draining type games to saddle up. Most of the players I talked to in the locker room, Brandon, they weren't going to go out and have fun and enjoy Athens tonight. They're pretty tired. They wanted to get home, and I think Jalen Carter says, I think I might need to sleep a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, it's one of those things where, man, sometimes we're in the business of having everything to say and what you want to say, but all I can say is it's pretty great to be a DawgNation reporter right now.
It absolutely is. The T-shirt I'm wearing says it all. You can barely see it, but it says "Go for 2 in 22 on our way to LA," and I can't wait. It was viewed as a remote possibility by some when this season began, and yet now it's here, and Georgia has that chance to win national championship number 2 here during the Kirby Smart era. We'll get ready to wrap things up. Terence, how about a final thought from you before we get a final thought from Jeff here? Your just kind of final remembrance of this night and your kind of final statement on a historic evening for these Dogs.
I think these are two of the best teams in the country. I personally think the best 4 teams played today. We saw if this is what the college football playoffs should be. Man, these was 2 great games with 4 great teams playing their hearts out to have the opportunity to play for a national championship. So this is what I love about college football. There's a lot of things that we talk about throughout the season that we do not like about college football, that we probably think college football is going down the wrong path. But when you watch these 2 games today with these 4 teams, this is what college football is all about. The game itself was very emotional, ups and downs, roller coasters, peaks and valleys. I think this is probably going to be the best game in Georgia history. It's an instant classic. It's going to be the game that's been talked about in the likes of Herschel running over Bill Bates, Lindsey Scott running against Florida, the Rose Bowl game. This game is probably tops them all. If we can finish the drill, as Coach Rick would say, this season would be talked about amongst the greats. Back-to-back, something that has happened since Alabama's done it. Undefeated season. Man, this season here. And I'm going to think about having 15 players drafted, and we're still able to be the kings of the mountain and have an opportunity to play for a national championship.
Doubt. Terence, that's so right. So good. Fantastic stuff. Jeff, how about a final thought from you here?
I'm getting on a plane at 8 a.m. on my way to Orlando. I might sneak in a little bit of fun before I get on said plane at 8 a.m. And then it won't be long before I'll see you, Brandon, in L.A.
Can't wait, my friend. Hey, to all of you here at DawgNation, thanks for being a part of this with us. Y'all, thank you for letting us talk to you about this on a night like this, to share the happiness with you, to hear your celebrations. It means so much to me to have this experience with all of you. It wouldn't be as much fun if I didn't have people like my friend Jeff and my friend Terence and all of you who I've made friends with who are part of our shows. If we couldn't all do this together, it wouldn't be nearly as much fun as it is right now. And sure enough, I say this, but I mean it. Stop by and see our folks at the UGA bookstore there as well. It's a great time to wear some good-looking dog apparel, and they got it. The Tommy Bahama, the Peter Millar, the Vineyard Vines, the UGA 10 line from Peter Millar, which you can only find at the UGA bookstore. The Nike coaches gear, all of the stuff that really looks great, that really makes you let everybody know that you are, a part of this Georgia fan base and a part of DawgNation. Our friends at the UGA bookstore got it for you. So find them online, UGAbookstore.com. Stop by and see them. They're right next to the Tate Student Center across from Sanford Stadium. Get stocked up. Get ready to go. It is going to be a fun couple of weeks. Georgia is about to play for a national championship. We liked it so much last year, we decided to do it again. I'm looking forward to doing it with all of you.
Can we officially petition Kirby Smart to say they are the defending national champions now?
That's
because
right.
They will be defending the belt next January the 9th in Los Angeles. Like Ric Flair style, bringing the belt into the ring. They are defending a national championship.
That's right. Going to hold it up like Tommy Young used to do. Hold that thing up in the air to show them what it's all about. All right, we're going to say goodbye here. Michael Carvel working long hours here today on all these videos. We certainly appreciate him on that. Thankfully, our batteries and stuff have held out here for what's quite a marathon of a show. So, y'all, get a little bit of rest. I need you ready to go 10 a.m. on Monday, though. DawgNation Daily is going to be breaking all this down every different way it can go. We'll hear from Terence this week. We'll hear from Jeff this week. And we're just going to we're going to enjoy it. And we're going to get ready for a tough battle in L.A. coming up a couple of Mondays from now. And we're just going to soak it all up because life rarely gets better than it is right now. Dogs on top, 42-41, beating Ohio State, not McNeese State, Ohio State tonight in the Peach Bowl in dramatic fashion, in a come-from-behind victory that the entire world is going to be talking about. We were happy to talk about it with you here in the DawgNation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore, and we will see you again next time, and there will be again a next time. It's going to happen in L.A. We'll talk to you then.